How can you have any kind of fear of rejection if you're not asking anybody for anything? You're sharing value. You're sharing an opportunity. And even if they don't invest with you, you're going to leave them better off than when you started the conversation. So what separates the people from succeeding and not succeeding, which I'm so thankful to say.
Imagine getting rejected by every bank in town and then turning around and raising millions in private money from everyday people instead. Well, that's exactly what today's guest did. Welcome back to The Root of All Success. I am your host, the real Jason Duncan, and this is episode 332. My guest today is Jay Conner. He's known nationwide as the Private Money Authority. After traditional banks slammed the door on his deals, he built a seven-figure real estate business by raising over $50 million in private capital and teaching thousands of others how to do the same thing. He's an author, he's an investor, he's a coach. He's helped hundreds of people across the country fund deals without a single bank loan. And as someone who is not very fond of bankers, I can say amen to that. So let's get into it. So, Jay, thanks for being here, man.
Jason, thank you so much for inviting me to come along and talk about what I'm so passionate about, that being private money and private lending, because this one strategy in our business changed everything and has had more of an impact on our success in real estate investing than anything else that we've ever done.
Well, take us back. What was the moment you realized that banks weren't the path forward and you had to find another way to fund your deals?
Wow. Jason, I remember it like it was yesterday. You see, my wife, Carol Joy, and I and our team, we've been investing in single family houses here in Eastern North Carolina ever since 2003. And from 2003 until January of 2009, the only thing that I knew to do to get my deals funded is go to the local bank or the local mortgage company and apply for a loan the traditional way. That's all I knew. And what I remember like it was yesterday was in January of 2009, I called up my banker. His name was Steve, and he had been funding my deals for 6 years. We had a great relationship. Well, in January of 2009, I had two houses under contract to purchase. Called up Steve to tell him about him, and I learned like that over the phone, Jason, that my line of credit had been closed with no notice to me whatsoever. I said, Steve, what in the world are you saying that my line of credit is closed? And Steve said, Jay, don't you know there's a global financial crisis going on right now? I said, no, but you just gave me a financial crisis. I don't have a way to fund my deals. And so I hung up the phone, and Jason, I asked myself a very, very important question that will actually help anybody fix any problem they got going on in their life. I don't care if it's financial, health, relationships, career, etc. I asked myself, I said, who do I know that can help me with my problem? By the way, these people running around saying every problem's an opportunity, I want to throw up. I didn't have an opportunity, I had a problem, right? Now it became an opportunity. You and I wouldn't be here today without this experience. So I immediately thought of my good friend Jeff Blankenship, who lived up in Greensboro, North Carolina at the time. He was investing in single family houses. I called him up. I told him what had happened. He said, welcome to the club. I said, what club is that? He said, that's the club of having the bank shut you down. My bank shut me down last week. I said, how are you going to get your deals funded? He said, well, have you ever heard of private money? I said, no. I said, what is it? He said, well, I'm not exactly sure, but there's this fellow down in Jacksonville, Florida by the name of Ron LeGrand that can tell us how to get private money and a lot of it really, really fast. I went to my very first real estate investing conference after being in this business for 6 years to learn about private money. I learned about private money. I put my opportunity together to share with people in my own network, and I was blessed to raise $2,150,000 in new funding in less than 90 days in this world of private money. And since that time, we've never missed out on a deal for not having the money.
So you said that your business shifted overnight once you discovered this private money. So what was that first private money deal like, and how did that end up changing everything?
Yeah. Well, you said it changed everything. Not only did it change everything, but it tripled our business in the first 12 months of starting to use private money. You may recall back in 2009, all those foreclosures were going on. Well, stop and think about that. You got a ton of foreclosures that were happening due to people getting mortgages that should have never been approved for mortgages, and banks were not loaning money. So you had to have the cash. So there I had that private money, and our business tripled because of that. All the way back when we started, our very first private lender, his name was Wayne, and he's passed away now because this was some years ago, and he was elderly when we started. But we actually went to church together, Jason, and we knew each other for years. And I've never asked anybody for money in this world of private money. I've never applied for a mortgage. I got great news if you're listening to this show. If you want private money, you're already approved. There's no applications, there's no pitching, there's no selling, there's no persuading, there's no chasing. You're offering an opportunity instead of applying for a mortgage. Well, back to my first private lender. It was on a Wednesday night at Bible study. I went there at 7:30 on Wednesday night. I walked in the foyer of the church building, and I walked up to Wayne and I said, Wayne, I've got something I want to talk to you about confidentially after Bible study if you've got a few minutes. He said, sure. So we got together after Bible study in the nursery, and here's exactly what I said to Wayne without asking for any money. I said, Wayne, you know everybody in this town. And he did. He was the Zenith television dealer in Morehead City, North Carolina. If you don't know who the Zenith television dealer is, you're too young to remember life before Walmart came to town. Anyway, I said, Wayne, you know everybody in this town. And here's the key phrase. I said, Wayne, I need your help. I said, here's what I need your help with. I said, you see, I've now opened up my real estate investing business by referral only, and I'm now paying investors insane high rates of return. When you, Wayne, run across somebody that's complaining about the low interest rates in the local bank and CDs and losing money in the stock market, would you refer them to me and I'll explain the opportunity to them? He said, well, what you got going on there, Brother Jay? I said, well, are you saying you might be interested? He said, well, I might. I said, why? He says, well, we're making less than 3% in a CD in the local bank. I'm losing money in the stock market. What kind of interest rate are you paying there, Jay? I said, well, it sort of depends on the deal. I said, but if you're interested, what sounds high to you? He said, well, we're making less than 3% in the bank. I guess maybe 5 or 6%. I said, Wayne, I can't pay you 5 or 6%, but I can pay you 8%. He said, put me down for $250,000. The next afternoon, on Thursday afternoon, I went to his and his wife's home. And what did I do? I put on my teacher hat that says private money teacher. You see, I didn't come to their home to sell them anything, to talk them into anything, to beg for money. I came there to give them value and share with them a way that they never heard about on how to get high rates of return safely and securely backed by real estate, whether they ended up, doing business with me or not, because I want them to spread the word. And so after 2 cups of coffee on Thursday afternoon, that $250,000 became $500,000 that they wanted to invest. And a big secret to why this works, I didn't talk about any deals. I know you may have heard this, Jason, in the real estate investing world. Some gurus will say, just get the deal under contract and the money will show up. That's the most stupid thing I ever heard in my life. So we share the opportunity. We find out how much money they want to invest. Maybe they got retirement funds they're not happy with. I'll introduce them to the self-directed IRA company to where they can move that money over and get interest, either tax deferred or tax free. And so they tell us how much they got to work with. Then we come back later and give them a deal to fund. Very, very important to separate those conversations because desperation's got a smell to it. And if you're talking about a deal and the opportunity in that initial conversation, you're sounding desperate without even trying to sound desperate.
So, a lot of investors talk about being stuck waiting on financing. So what is the mental shift that you had to make to start raising money directly from people like Wayne instead of institutions?
The mental shift, and this is so critically important, and that is to lead in everything that you do with a servant's heart. And what I mean by that is having the right mindset. You got to own the real estate between your ears first. So I sort of alluded to it in that little story, and that is when I'm sharing the opportunity, I'm giving value. I'm sharing information with people they never heard about before. And that's what I had to get straight first, is that mindset of no chasing, begging for swelling or selling. I'm serving, offering an opportunity. We have received, Carol Joy and I, we have received handwritten notes in the mail thanking us from our private lenders of being a part of transforming their retirement years. Wayne and his wife that I'm talking about, they were one that wrote us a letter. They told us if it hadn't been for this opportunity to become an investor and a private lender, they would not have been able to travel as much as they did to go see their grandchildren whenever they wanted to. I mean, so it's all about making an impact and creating win-win scenarios.
You've been very open in your publicly about your Christian faith. So, how has that shaped your integrity and leadership in an industry where a lot of people are cutting corners?
Yeah. Well, that's very, very important. I've been a speaker on stage talking about private money for many years now. And when you go to speaker school, they tell you not to talk about, government and politics and faith and church and all that. Well, I don't talk about politics, but I tell you what, my faith, my relationship with God, and all that, that is just so much a part of me. And so I cannot help but share with people who I am and what my core values are. And you know what that does, Jason? And I'm not telling you anything, but you know what that does is that attracts more people to you like you are, and it repels people away who are not like you. And you know what? That is a good thing.
Well, you've mentored a lot of investors. So, what separates those who actually succeed with private money from those who stay stuck chasing hard money or bank loans?
It comes down to confidence, clarity, and the courage to implement what you're taught. So, fear plays into that a lot. And of course, I tell people all the time, how can you have any kind of fear of rejection if you're not asking anybody for anything? You're not asking anybody for anything. You're sharing value, you're sharing an opportunity. And even
Yeah.
if they don't invest with you, you're going to leave them better off than when you started the conversation. They're going to know more about this world. And so, what separates the people from succeeding and not succeeding, which I'm so thankful to say, we have over a 90% success rate with our coaching clients, and that's unheard of in the coaching industry. They raise their own private money. They do their own deals. Um, I think a big part of our high success rate with our coaching clients is that we actually coach and teach what we do. We don't share theory. We don't share something that we just read in a book somewhere. This is real life, what's happening in the market today that is lending itself to our success. And, we transfer that over. So the 97% that are successful trust the system and simply, quote unquote, just do what I tell you to do.
The market, of course, looks a lot different today than it did when you started back in '03. 22 years, lots gone down.
So
We've had
true.
crazy things happen, pandemics. We've had the market crashes. So, what are the biggest adjustments that you've had to make to keep closing deals?
Well, you have to pivot with the market. And here's what I mean by that. By the way, I've got a problem. I've had this problem ever since I started raising private money. There's more money than there are deals, right? And so, it's a juggling act to keep your private lender's money at work. But the market that I'm talking about that you have to pivot with is the real estate market. I'm talking about specifically single family houses. So since 2003, uh, we're now in the third cycle already. I mean, since we started investing in single family houses. I mean, when COVID came along, who knew what the housing market was going to do since March of 2020 up until last year?
Yeah.
Crazy, crazy, crazy. Um, so here's where we have to pivot. When when houses are moving quickly, so most of the houses that we buy, we renovate them, we rehab them, turn them into beautiful brand new homes, and then put them in the multiple listing service with our realtors and sell them and cash out. That's when the market is hot. Well, we got spoiled. I mean, since COVID up until about a year ago, you put a beautiful home in the multiple listing service, you got multiple offers that weekend, right? Well, things have slowed down now this year. They're not moving as quickly. But let me tell you a myth or a misconception. You see, we got spoiled when it came to selling houses. Well, here is the National Realtor Association of a buyer's market, a seller's market, and a balanced market. So their definition is that if houses are moving uh, very quick, if they're moving quickly and they're on the market from one day to 4 months, that is a seller's market. A balanced market is when it's on the market average days from 4 months to 6 months. That's a balanced market.
Hmm.
Then a buyer's market is when the average time on the in the multiple listing service is over 6 months. Well, we're still in a seller's market here in Eastern North Carolina. We're still selling houses in less than 90 days, right? But we got spoiled when houses were moving, within the same weekend. So how do you pivot? When houses are not moving as quickly, then we change our exit strategy. So over the years in slower markets, we've sold a lot of single houses on our lease purchase program or rent to own. And there's over 70% of Americans can't go to the local bank and get a mortgage. So you got all these people that would love a pathway to home ownership. So we'll sell the home on lease purchase, which means they will put down a non-refundable lease option deposit and we'll rent the home to them. We will help them get their credit restored and repaired and actually help them towards getting a mortgage, being mortgage ready, typically within 12 months, and then cash out. So, again, you have to pivot with the market on what your exit strategy is.
Now, I in my notes says you're averaging about 3 deals a month. Is that still an accurate number?
That's right, two to three
Yeah,
a
so
month
that's pretty
that I'm
consistent
buying.
volume.
That I'm
Yeah.
buying. Yeah.
Well, that's pretty consistent volume. So what systems or people make that possible without burning you out?
Yeah, that's a great question. So we do all kinds of marketing consistently every day. One of our big lead sources is Google pay per lead. So we have 7 different companies or vendors that are have Google ads to where when someone is searching on Google, how to sell my house fast, there's 75 different key phrases that people will go search for a way to sell their house. Then those leads in our counties here where we invest, they come to us. So these are people that are looking to sell their house, right? Um, in addition to that, we do direct mail. We do direct mail to pre-probate, inherited properties, where we help families that are not necessarily interested in keeping a property, putting money in their pocket pretty quickly. Direct mail, we do outbound calling and outbound texting. So, and we also, ever since 2004, we have direct mailed every borrower that is facing foreclosure in our target markets, offering to help them. We're offering to help them by putting money in their pocket to help them get back on their feet if they've got equity in the property, and et cetera. So again, remember that word serving, whether you're talking to private lenders or you're talking to a potential seller, it's all about finding out what is their problem that they're facing and how can we be a solution to
And if you had to start over today, knowing what you know now, how would you approach your first 90 days as an investor?
it. I would get in a mastermind similar to what you run and surround myself with people that are like-minded, that I can help, and they can help me, and we can, serve each other together. For the first 6 years, I was out here on an island by myself, so to speak. And boy, would I change that. I would get good coaching, good training, be in a mastermind group to where I can have that support from other people right out the gate.
I love it. Well, before we get into the lightning round, I want to take a quick pause here to talk to you as business owners who are listening to this show. If you're a business owner who wants to build real wealth without relying on Wall Street, I want you to check out something called Bank on Yourself. This is a proven way to take control of your money and to grow it safely outside of the stock market. You can learn more about this at therealjasonduncan.com/bank on yourself. And I think it plays really nicely into what we're talking about today with Jay Conner as the guest on my show. And while you're at my website, therealjasonduncan.com, don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel. There's a link right there, or you can go to youtube.com/therealjasonduncan. You get to watch every episode of The Root of All Success and learn how to build an exitable business that is not owner dependent. Stop being a slave to your business. Learn how to do it by watching my stuff on YouTube. All right, Jay, let's get back to what you were talking about. This is the root of all success after all. So what do you believe is your one key to success?
Well, my one key to success is based on the people I meet and the books I read. So I put a lot of value on my relationships. I'm in 3 different mastermind groups, and the people I hang. So it's the people I hang around and spend the most time with, and the books I read that are the key to my success.
All right. Next question. How do you personally define success?
Well, you define success by asking yourself a question. Truly, how happy are you? How much joy do you have in your life? And if you're truly not happy and you're not full of joy, then you're not successful. Of course, the follow-up question is what needs to change in your life for you to be full of happiness and full of joy?
Well, I like that definition. So based on that definition, Jay, do you consider yourself successful?
I feel I feel like I'm abundantly successful. I mean, here's another side, I guess, definition of success is when you don't view your work as work. I haven't worked really in over 20 years. This is just what I do. This is who I am.
Yeah.
This is my purpose that's being fulfilled. And, I'm excited every morning I get up that I get to go out and make an impact.
All right. So now, what would you say is your best piece of advice for an entrepreneur who's trying to build something that lasts?
Well, I sort of already said it. Don't go at it alone. Do not go at this thing alone, right? Get involved in a mastermind, hang around other people that are like-minded, that you all can help each other out.
All right, Jay, we're closing in on the end of the show. I've got 4 rapid fire questions for you. Are you ready?
I'm not sure, but I'll give it my best shot.
All right. First one, favorite real estate deal that you've ever done?
Oh, wow. Well, that's probably just last year. We had one of those Google leads come in, and this was an oceanfront condominium over at Atlantic Beach, totally furnished with luxury furniture, absolutely beautiful. You look out the windows, you feel like you're on a cruise ship. And the seller had multiple motivations. I won't get into all that. But because of private money being available, ready to close, I closed on that deal in 5 days from the time that the seller contacted us. I bought it for $460,000. It only needed $10,000 in some touch-up paint and etc. And we turned right around and sold it for $618,000 4 weeks later. So I can't even calculate that return on investment.
Wow.
Actually,
All
you know
right.
what? It's an infinite return
That's right. Infinite
because
return.
I didn't use any of my money.
All right. Next question. Book that's impacted your business the most.
Oh, wow. Well, the book that's impacted my business the most is different than the book that's impacted me personally the most. So I'll stick with your question. And the answer is Jack Canfield's book titled The Success Principles. There's 65 principles in Jack Canfield's book, The Success Principles. You know, he's the co-author from decades ago of Chicken Soup for the Soul series that was so popular 30 years ago. But yes, the success principles. Each chapter is not long at all, very easy to digest, and so many of those principles I use in my business. The very first chapter is titled "Be 100% responsible for everything in your life." That's the foundational principle of the entire book.
Well, Jay, the way you set that up, I have to ask the follow-up question: that what's the one book that's impacted your life the most?
Other than the Bible, it's a book titled University of Success. I got that book when I was 24 years old. I was in a very, very dark place. I got drunk every night for a year. I had no relationship with God. Family wouldn't even let me stay with them. And it was pretty much rock bottom. And I went to the bookstore and I said, you know, there's got to be a better way. And I found myself for the very first time in the personal development, self improvement section in the bookstore. And I found that book. It's by Og Mandino, University of Success. And I still have that original book that I bought, highlighted, red lines all through it. It's about ready to fall apart, but it changed my life.
What's the biggest myth about private money that you wish would die?
There's a lot of them. There's a lot of them. The biggest myth about private money I wish would die is that you have to chase it, that you have to apply for it, that you have to have your credit score pulled, that you've got to bring a down payment to every deal. I mean, I pick up a big check every time I buy a property because of using private money. So the biggest myth is that the answer to that myth is that there's money all around you that is looking for a home, and all you got to do is offer the opportunity, and the money starts chasing you.
Oh, and finally, if you could give your 25-year-old self one piece of advice, what would it be?
My 25-year-old piece of advice: um, follow your dreams and what you want to do now. Do not wait. Do not wait until tomorrow, next month, next year. Life is too short not to get happy now.
Jay, thank you so much for that positive look on what we're dealing with this money lending, private money. You've got a curiosity opener script that you want to offer everybody who's listening. Tell us about that.
Yes, I just recently finished writing my entire $1 million private money script collection. These are the words that I say to attract the private money. And I want to give as a gift the very first script in that collection. It's called the Curiosity Opener. How do you start a conversation very casually, very easily, very simple with a potential private lender, with someone, you know, in your own network? And it's called the Curiosity Opener Script. You can download that PDF for free at www.jayconner.com/scripts. jayconner.com/scripts.
Well, Jay, thank you for being on the show today. We're going to put all of those links in our show notes, how to get in touch with you on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, Instagram, X, all those places. Everybody can reach out to Jay. If you want to learn how to do private money, get private money to do your deals, Jay Conner is the most positive man in the world who can show you how to do that. Jay, thank you so much for being on the show.
Jason, thank you, and God bless you.
All right, you know what time it is. It's time for another edition of JD's Public Service Rants. This is where I call out the little things that shouldn't have to be said, but clearly they do. So if you're guilty of this one, well, consider yourself officially put on notice. And I'm talking to you, people who stop at the top or the bottom of escalators to check your phone. I mean, you know exactly who you are. You step off the escalator and then you freeze, just like you forgot how time works. And look, I get it. Maybe your phone buzzed. Maybe Google Maps is glitching. Maybe you just got the text that you've been waiting for. But stopping right there turns you into a human roadblock. You're not alone in the mall, my friend. There are 15 people riding up behind you, and now they're all jammed up behind you like it's Black Friday at Best Buy. It's not just annoying, it's dangerous. I mean, one guy checks his phone and suddenly we got a human pileup. You want to look at your phone? Well, that's great. But take 2 steps to the left or to the right, or literally anywhere that's not directly in the flow of human traffic. You wouldn't slam your car into park on the freeway to check Instagram. Well, don't do it with your feet either. Just keep moving, people. Well, that's it for today's JD's Public Service Rant. If you got an idea for one of these, send it over my way. And remember, don't be that guy. Well, there it is, another successful entrepreneur telling his story about how to do something that all of us, I think, are interested in. Maybe today you're not interested in real estate, but it will be part of your story as you grow as an entrepreneur. It's going to be something you're going to want to look into, and keeping people like Jay in your back pocket is not a bad idea. So make sure you bookmark this episode, come back and listen to it later if you're not already interested in real estate. And if you are interested in real estate, you want to know how to get private money, go check out Jay. Look up that script, get it. And whatever you're pursuing in life as an entrepreneur, keep in mind what he talked about. Go do it now. Like whatever you're dreaming, whatever you're hoping for, whatever you want to accomplish, go do it now. The amount of joy you have in your life is going to be directly connected to your level of success. So those are good words from Jay Conner. Thanks again for listening. Make sure you tune in again next time when I talk with yet another very successful person about his or her journey to success. Until then, as always, I am the real Jason Duncan, and Jesus is King.
Attention business owners.
Attention business owners.
Feeling burnout from running your business? Uncertain if you're nearing burnout? Take our free 10-question business burnout test at businessburnouttest.com to discover where you stand. With just 10 quick questions, you'll learn how to immediately begin making changes to regain freedom and success. Cut your daily operations time in half. Improve your quality of life and prepare your business for your future exit without losing revenue or profit. Visit businessburnouttest.com now and take the test. Thank you for listening to another edition of The Root of All Success with the real Jason Duncan. If you've enjoyed this week's episode, visit therootofallsuccess.com to access the show notes and other helpful resources. Follow Jason on social media at The Real Jason Duncan. See you again next time here on The Root of All Success.